Just like any other day, I finish up at work and hop on the usual train. After an 8-minute walk from my local station, I arrive home, the place I've been living in for nearly 20 years. I grab a bottle of beer from the fridge and snack on some chips as I enjoy a cold one. While half watching a variety show I'm not particularly interested in, my mind drifts to the same old thought. I wonder how those two are doing. There's no way for me to know, and even if I did, there's nothing I can do about it. But that's what I've been pondering for 20 years, day in and day out. The two people I'm referring to are my ex-wife, Jennifer, and my daughter, Michelle. In an ideal world, we'd still be a happy family of 3. Back then, I never doubted for a moment that such a future would come to pass. But somehow, our family ended up going our separate ways in a way none of us could have predicted. I met Jennifer 21 years ago. At that time, I was in the first year of moving to the big city from a poor, rural town to start my career as a salesperson. Jennifer, on the other hand, had just begun working as a secretary for her father, the president of a different design company. We were two people from different backgrounds and circumstances, with nothing in common except for the fact that we both lived in this bustling New York City. By all rights, we should have never crossed paths. We met on a rainy day. Caught off guard by a sudden downpour on my way home from work, I ducked into a nearby novelty shop to buy an umbrella. I really should have checked the weather forecast today, I mused while searching for an umbrella, but the shop had only cute pattern umbrellas. Finally, I found a simple lime green colored umbrella amidst the more whimsical options. Feeling somewhat out of place in the female-dominated store, I quickly made my way to the cashier. However, in haste, I wasn't paying enough attention and accidentally knocked my umbrella against a shelf. It was only after I heard the clatter that I realized I had dropped something. Looking in the direction of the noise, I noticed a small pendant had fallen to the floor, with part of its decoration coming loose and breaking. Man, I've done it now. I froze for a moment. These kinds of novelty shops can be surprisingly pricey, so paying for damages was going to hurt. Especially this month, when I was already strapped for cash after several nights out with my coworkers. Luckily or unluckily, nobody seemed to have noticed that I'd dropped the item. But still, I couldn't just leave it there after realizing I broke it. Reluctantly, I picked it up, intending to take it to the cashier. That's when it happened.
Excuse me, are you buying that pendant because you dropped and broke it?
Hearing that voice, I turned to look. And that was how I met Jennifer. Feeling a bit embarrassed that she noticed, I replied, "Oh, yes." When I said that, Jennifer's expression seemed to brighten noticeably. But when she said, "Great," I got a bit annoyed. Here I was, about to pay for something I had no intention of buying because I accidentally dropped it, and she's saying great. Then Jennifer seemed to realize how I felt and quickly added, "Oh, sorry, that's not what I meant. I've actually been wanting that pendant for a while. If it's okay with you, could I buy it off you?" I got the gist of it quickly, but I couldn't agree so easily. But this is broken, you know." Even though it was just a part that had come off, I felt uncomfortable making someone else pay for something I had broken. Jennifer's offer was very much appreciated, but I had to decline at first. However, Jennifer, with a smile, said, "It's totally fine. We can fix it with glue." So I took her up on her offer. After we both finished paying, we ended up going outside the store together, and that's when Jennifer exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my, it's pouring rain." It hadn't been raining just 30 minutes before, so she must not have noticed. "Would you like to be in my umbrella to go to the station?" Those words came out so easily, I surprised even myself. But for some reason, I felt a desire to help her. Jennifer nodded happily, and we both huddled under her newly bought lime green umbrella. From there, things just flowed, and we exchanged contact information, starting a relationship 3 months later. It wasn't my first time dating a woman, but it was a first time I felt so at ease and could be my true self with someone. That's how irreplaceable Jennifer's presence had become to me. So, naturally, marriage was in my thoughts, and we even talked about it. Even without any concrete plans, I fondly remember how blissful it was to talk and imagine a life together as family with Jennifer. And then came our 1-year anniversary. As we were nearing our first year together, that day, I planned to propose to Jennifer. I was 24 years old and just 2 years into my career. It might have seemed a bit early, but if I was going to spend my life with someone, I couldn't imagine anyone other than Jennifer. However, that day, just before I could propose, Jennifer shared something completely unexpected.
I think I'm pregnant.
Jennifer shared the news with a mix of joy and a little apprehension. I was surprised, sure, but almost entirely overwhelmed with happiness, and I joyfully presented the engagement ring I had prepared. Jennifer seemed surprised too, and there we were, both of us laughing through our tears. Just the thought of being incredibly happy with just the two of us, Jennifer and I, and now we were going to be 3 with our precious child on the way. How incredibly happy our future must be waiting for us. I still remember clearly thinking that way. But the end of that happiness came much sooner than I had anticipated. After proposing, we met each other's parents and started looking for a home to live in together. Jennifer was pregnant, so a wedding wasn't possible, but we still had happy and peaceful days. However, there was just one thing. Jennifer's parents were opposed to our marriage. Being the daughter of a CEO, Jennifer had always been encouraged to have an arranged meeting with the heir of a business associate. I didn't know about this situation, but even if I did, I couldn't imagine being separated from Jennifer. Especially since we already had our precious child on the way. So, without considering her parents' wishes, we chose a path akin to eloping. Looking back, I can help but wonder if a different future would have been possible had I tried harder to convince her parents. I often catch myself thinking that way. Half a year after making it official, our daughter Michelle was born without a hitch. She had Jennifer's striking round eyes and a little mole by her mouth, just like mine, which appeared soon after she was born. It was happy, but I felt awkward to see my features in her. But watching my child grow to resemble the woman I love was an indescribable joy. But then, one fateful day, a call came through on Jennifer's cell phone. It was a call from Jennifer's mother, bearing the news that her father had passed away. She had kept it a secret, not wanting to worry her only daughter, Jennifer. It seems he had been suffering from a terminal illness for several years, and that was the cause of his passing. Maybe all the insistence on arranged marriages and wanting her to marry a company heir was all out of concern for what would happen after he was gone. Even I, who was almost a stranger, couldn't help but think this way, so Jennifer must have had so many thoughts running through her mind. After attending the funeral with Michelle, who her father had never gotten the chance to meet, Jennifer remained downcast for a long time. Then, about a month later,
Please, let's get a divorce.
Jennifer said that. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect such words, and of course, I tried to persuade her otherwise. But Jennifer wouldn't budge.
I couldn't give my dad peace of mind while he was alive. If my mom ends up feeling the same way, I won't be able to recover. I want to give my mom that peace. You've done nothing wrong. I'm truly sorry.
Am I not good enough? Sure, I'm not a high earner, but I work diligently and should be able to provide a stable life for Jennifer and Michelle. If that's still not enough and she feels insecure, I'll work even harder. I don't mind working overtime or having no days off. I'm willing to live with my mother-in-law or even have her move in with us. I just wanted us three to live together, no matter what it took. However, even I tried to persuade her. Jennifer's heart was no longer with me. The happy future for the three of us that I envisioned was no longer here. If separating from me meant happiness for Jennifer and Michelle, then I had no choice but to comply. Realizing this, I tearfully chose the path of divorce. Now, 20 years have passed. I have no idea where they are or how they are doing. I'm still working at the same company, now as the head of the HR department. My work is fulfilling, but without someone to share my happiness with, it feels somewhat hollow. I wonder what kind of adult Michelle has become, now that she must be of age. Did she go to college? Has she started working? I hope she hasn't been hurt by any unkind adults. Recently, as the job applicants coming in for interviews have started to be around the same age as Michelle, I find myself thinking about this more and more. Then, one day, as I was reviewing resumes for the upcoming interviews, my hands froze. It was because I saw the name, Michelle Johnson. The name Michelle is quite common in her generation, and the last name Johnson is different from Jennifer's maiden name. Besides, the odds of my daughter coincidentally coming in for an interview at the company where I work in HR are practically non-existent. Even though I know better, seeing that name still makes me react involuntarily. Knowing it was someone else, I couldn't help but read Michelle Johnson's resume a little more carefully than usual.
The person I admire the most is my mother. She's always aware of my mood and encourages me. Should I be hired by your company, I'll not only dedicate myself to my tasks but also aim to create a pleasant and cooperative workplace by paying attention to my colleagues.
Reading those words, I couldn't help but think of Jennifer. Jennifer was always so bright and kind. Surely, she would have enveloped Michelle, her daughter, in the same warm kindness. Our company doesn't require photos with resumes, but I found myself eagerly anticipating meeting Michelle Johnson, who was supposed to be a stranger. And then the following week came. Next, please. When I said that, there was a polite knock on the door, and a job-seeking student walked in. Dressed in a new suit and with a nervous look on her face, I was taken aback for a moment, because standing there was the spitting image of Jennifer. I quickly glanced at the resume in front of me. There, the name Michelle Johnson was written. Could it be? She's that Michelle. As my mind raced, she looked at me curiously. Oh, excuse me. Are you Michelle Johnson? Yes, I am Michelle Johnson from Southeast Vocational School. Thank you for having me today, she said politely. Her crisp manner of speaking somehow reminded me of Jennifer. It crossed my mind that the person in front of me could be my daughter, whom I hadn't seen in 20 years. At that thought, a strange sweat broke out, and I started to feel tense. But she probably couldn't even dream that I might be her father. So, I figured it was best to keep my cool as the interviewer. In a short time, I decided to act as normally as possible. I'm the interviewer for today, from the HR department. My name is Nathan Williams. It's nice to meet you. With the usual words spoken, I finally calmed down and looked at her face. And then, those round, wide-open eyes so like Jennifer's, a small but high nose, and the mole by the mouth, just like mine. All of it made me think, that's definitely Michelle. No doubt about it. I was almost certain. Still, I can just blurt out that I'm her father to her during an interview. I ask about her motivation for applying, what qualifications she has, and what she learned at school. Just like a regular interview, I ask these questions while keeping my composure. Yet, there's so much more I really want to know. Where does she live now? Is Jennifer doing well? What kind of memories has she made growing up? What foods does she like, and what activities does she find most enjoyable? A day wouldn't be enough to ask all I want to know about Michelle. But this is an interview, and there's another interviewer beside me. I can say anything that might jeopardize Michelle's chances of getting hired. But to part ways after finally reuniting after 20 years.
Nathan, is there anything else you'd like to ask?
My colleague's question left me thinking. There's too much I want to ask, but I couldn't come up with a clever way to do it. No, I don't have any further questions. After my response, my colleague said, then we'll conclude our questions. If Johnson has any self-promotion to add, please go ahead. Despite having all the time in the world to think, during the 20 years I was alone, I never imagined we'd reunite like this, and now I can seem to do anything with this golden opportunity. I felt utterly helpless and pitiful. After finally seeing her again for the first time in 20 years, is this how it's going to end? I was lost in these thoughts when Michelle began to speak.
In my resume, I mentioned that I respect my mother. My parents divorced when I was young, and she quickly remarried. My stepfather was very strict, and we had our fair share of troubles, but my mother was always my ally. I just adore her. She's strong and kind.
I had read her resume very carefully, but hearing Jennifer speak about it brought tears to my eyes. How much struggle had they gone through without me knowing? Here I was, thinking I was the unfortunate one left alone, while Jennifer and Michelle, living together, were the fortunate ones. But maybe that wasn't necessarily the case. I tried my best to keep my composure, not letting Michelle or any colleague notice the effort it took. Perhaps Michelle held some resentment towards me, not having mustered the courage to talk to Jennifer's father before he passed away, failing to come up with a better way to help Jennifer when she was struggling. After being absent for 20 years, it wouldn't be surprising if they harbored some resentment. These thoughts made me fearful of hearing what Michelle would say next. Then, Michelle reached into her pocket and pulled something out.
This is a charm my mom gave me when I came of age. It's something precious that played a part in my mom and dad meeting each other. She told me that as I step into adulthood, it would surely be something that protects me.
That was the pendant from when I first met Jennifer. The broken part remained unfixed all this time. Yet, Jennifer had kept that unsightly pendant with her all along.
I was separated from my real father when I was just a baby, so I don't have any memories of him. But when I have this pendant with me, I feel like my father is watching over me. That's why I brought it today. I was really nervous.
Michelle, who was supposed to be talking about her personal strengths, suddenly started sharing her life story. My colleague, another interviewer, seemed puzzled by what was happening. But me, I couldn't listen without tearing up, and I found myself looking down. Could it be that Michelle has realized that I'm her father? With such an improbable hope, I listened.
I'm sorry for talking so long.
Michelle said, snapping back to her brisk self, a stark contrast to her earlier demeanor. It was just my wishful thinking that she had recognized me. I thought at that moment.
But maybe this really is a charm.
Michelle indeed said that, flashing a smile at me. Michelle closed the door. Michelle was the last interviewee of the day.
The last one was a bit unique, wasn't she? She seemed very outspoken and nice, though.
My colleague mentioned that, but I had no time to respond. My feet were moving on their own. With a loud bang, I opened the door and hurried down the hallway. I could still see Michelle's silhouette. Michelle. As I ran after her, Michelle slowly turned to face me. Tears were pooling in her eyes. I was surprised that she looked just like her mom, Jennifer, even in tears. Without thinking, I blurted out, "Michelle." One wrong step, and I totally look like a creep.
To think I'm really meeting my dad. This is just too much of a blessing.
Michelle was sobbing as she said that, and I just couldn't help but hug her. Holding Michelle, who had grown so much since she was a baby, felt surreal. The years we hadn't seen each other made their presence felt, whether I liked it or not. Needless to say, I got some weird looks from a coworker who had witnessed the scene until I cleared up the misunderstanding. I heard later that Jennifer, after divorcing me, had indeed remarried through an arranged meeting, just like Mimel had said. However, it turned out to be an unhappy marriage due to her husband's abusive behavior, and they divorced after a few years. It seems that Jennifer had kept our family photos, and because Michelle had seen those, she recognized me. I had resigned myself to being hated or forgotten, so learning this was incredibly joyful. At the same time, it reignited a strong desire to see Jennifer again. When I mustered the courage to talk to Michelle about it, amazingly, after 20 years, the three of us were reunited. Now, a year later, we are living together again as a family. Although Michelle didn't get hired at the company after they learned about our family connection, I'm truly glad these days of being together have come in this way. The happy future I thought had disappeared 20 years ago was certainly a long way off, but it was indeed here. I am now deeply grateful for the unbroken bond of our family,